What if I told you that ancient Babylon, Greece, and Jewish communities had specific principles that guaranteed wealth building when applied consistently? These aren't just historical curiosities. Wealthy families still use these exact same strategies today. While modern Americans struggle paycheck to paycheck despite working multiple jobs, ancient civilizations had a step-by-step system that made staying poor literally impossible. Hard-working Americans today follow modern financial advice, budget apps, savings challenges, side hustles, but they never build lasting wealth because they're missing the ancient foundation that everything else depends on. They're trying to build skyscrapers on quicksand. Today, I'm revealing the complete ancient step-by-step method that makes staying poor literally impossible. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 3 timeless principles that have lifted millions from poverty across thousands of years. The final principle is so powerful that 99% of poor people refuse to do it, which is exactly why they stay poor. If you're tired of working hard but never getting ahead financially, comment ancient wealth below. Let me start with the first ancient principle that separates those who escape poverty forever from those who stay trapped. Number 1. Ancient mindset mastery. The first reason people stay poor forever is that they think like victims instead of victors. Poor people wait for external rescue, better jobs, government help, lottery tickets, or economic improvements to solve their problems. They use language like "I can't afford it," "rich people are lucky," and "the system is rigged against me." This victim mindset creates a mental prison that keeps them financially trapped, regardless of their income level or work ethic. There's a profound story from ancient Egypt that reveals how mindset determines destiny more than circumstances. Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused of assault, and thrown into prison for years. By every measure, he should have developed a victim mentality, blaming his brothers, his circumstances, or the unfair system that kept him trapped. Instead, Joseph maintained what ancient Hebrews called emunah, an unshakable faith in his ability to create value regardless of external conditions. In prison, he didn't complain or scheme to escape. He studied dream interpretation, developed his leadership skills, and helped other prisoners solve their problems. When Pharaoh needed someone to interpret troubling dreams, guards remembered Joseph's extraordinary abilities. Joseph's interpretation not only saved him from prison, but also made him second in command of the entire Egyptian empire. From slave to ruler in one conversation, not because his circumstances changed, but because his mindset had prepared him to seize an opportunity that victim thinking would have missed completely. Ancient Greeks understood this principle through their concept of arete, the pursuit of excellence through internal character development rather than external achievements. Greek philosophers taught that circumstances don't determine destiny, responses to circumstances do. They practiced daily mental exercises to maintain abundance thinking even during hardship, understanding that mindset was the foundation of all success. Babylonian merchant training included intensive visualization practices, where apprentices would spend hours daily imagining successful trades, abundant harvests, and profitable ventures. They understood that the mind creates reality through consistent thought patterns, and wealthy thinking must be practiced like any other skill before it produces wealthy results. Jewish tradition teaches this through the daily practice of hakarat hatov, recognizing goodness and abundance even in difficult circumstances. Jewish merchants throughout history maintained prosperity consciousness during persecution and exile, which allowed them to rebuild wealth quickly in new locations. They understood that grateful, abundant thinking attracts opportunities while victim thinking repels them. This ancient wisdom reveals why mindset determines financial destiny. Your brain is constantly scanning for evidence to support your dominant beliefs. If you believe money is hard to come by, your brain will notice every obstacle while missing opportunities. If you believe, I create value wherever I go, your brain will find ways to solve problems and generate income. The wealthy understand something poor people don't. External circumstances are temporary, but mindset patterns are permanent until consciously changed. A victim-minded person who wins the lottery typically loses everything within 5 years because their mental programming hasn't changed. But an abundance-minded person who loses everything can rebuild wealth because they know their mindset, not their circumstances, creates their reality. This explains why some immigrants arrive with nothing and build fortunes within a generation, while others born in America stay poor for life. The difference isn't opportunity, education, or connections. It's whether they think like creators or victims. Ancient merchants practiced specific mental disciplines to maintain prosperity consciousness. They spoke about their ventures as if success was inevitable, visualized abundance daily, and refused to entertain scarcity thinking for extended periods. They understood that language shapes feelings, feelings shape actions, and actions shape results. Here's what you must do immediately. Audit your internal dialogue and speech patterns. Stop saying, "I can't afford it," and start asking, "How can I afford it?" Replace, "I hope things get better," with, "I will make things better." Spend 10 minutes daily visualizing your ideal financial life in vivid detail. See yourself handling money confidently, making smart decisions, and creating value for others. Practice gratitude for what you already have, while simultaneously believing you deserve more. This isn't positive thinking. It's prosperity programming that changes how your brain processes information and identifies opportunities. A janitor named Marcus applied these ancient mindset principles religiously. Instead of complaining about his low-paying job, he viewed it as training for running his own cleaning business. He spoke about his future company as if it already existed, visualized serving grateful customers, and maintained an abundance mindset despite financial struggles. Within 3 years, his mindset had attracted opportunities and connections that helped him build a cleaning service worth over $500,000. Ancient wisdom teaches that wealth is an inside job. It starts in your mind before it appears in your bank account. Number 2. Ancient discipline systems. The second reason people stay poor is that they consume more than they create and lack the disciplined habits that build wealth over time. Modern Americans are trained for instant gratification. They want to lose weight without exercise, get rich without sacrifice, and build skills without practice. They consume entertainment, food, and material goods constantly while producing very little value. This consumption mindset guarantees poverty, because wealth only comes to those who create more than they consume. Ancient Sparta understood that discipline was the foundation of all achievement, including financial prosperity. Spartan warriors didn't train intensely only when they felt motivated. They practiced the same rigorous exercises every single day, regardless of weather, mood, or circumstances. They understood that consistency and small disciplines created extraordinary results over time. The Spartan training system, called a Goj, required young men to practice basic skills daily for years before advancing to complex techniques. They learned that mastering fundamentals through repetition was more valuable than chasing advanced strategies. This principle applied to every area of life, including wealth building. Simple disciplines practiced consistently always beat complex strategies applied sporadically. Confucian philosophy taught this through the concept of rai, daily practice that gradually transforms character and circumstances. Confucian scholars didn't study philosophy only when convenient. They dedicated specific hours each day to learning, regardless of competing demands. They understood that knowledge acquired consistently compounds into wisdom, while sporadic learning produces no lasting change. Ancient Jewish tradition embodied this through Seder Hayom, the structured daily routine that included prayer, study, work, and reflection in specific proportions. Jewish merchants who built generational wealth typically studied religious texts early each morning, worked productively during business hours, and reflected on lessons learned each evening. This disciplined schedule created mental clarity and decision-making abilities that translated directly into financial success. Medieval apprenticeship systems were built entirely on compound discipline. A young blacksmith didn't occasionally practice when inspired. He worked at the forge every day for 7 years, gradually developing expertise that commanded premium prices. Master craftsmen understood that daily practice created skills so valuable that customers willingly paid significant amounts for their services. These ancient examples reveal why discipline creates wealth. Consistent daily actions compound into extraordinary capabilities over time. A person who reads about money for 30 minutes daily becomes financially educated within months. Someone who practices a valuable skill consistently develops expertise that generates income. But someone who studies sporadically or practices only when motivated never achieves the competence required for wealth building. The mathematical reality is staggering. Someone who improves their skills just 1% daily becomes 37 times better over 1 year through compound improvement. But someone who makes sporadic efforts sees no meaningful progress because improvement requires consistent momentum to overcome natural decay. Ancient merchants understood this through their daily routines. Successful Phoenician traders maintained detailed records every day, studied market conditions regularly, and practiced negotiation skills constantly. They didn't wait for inspiration. They treated wealth building like any other craft, requiring daily practice to achieve mastery. This principle applies to every aspect of financial success. Living below your means requires daily spending decisions, not occasional budget reviews. Building emergency funds requires consistent saving habits, not sporadic windfalls. Developing valuable skills requires daily practice, not weekend workshops. Here's your ancient discipline system. Choose 3 wealth-building habits and practice them daily without exception. First, track every expense for financial awareness. Second, learn something valuable for 30 minutes daily through books, courses, or tutorials. Third, create more value than you consume by working on income-producing activities during your free time. Make these habits so automatic that you perform them regardless of motivation, mood, or circumstances. Ancient wisdom teaches that motivation is temporary, but habits are permanent wealth-building tools. Start small, but start immediately. Save $5 daily rather than waiting to save $150 monthly. Read 10 pages daily instead of planning to read entire books occasionally. Practice a valuable skill for 20 minutes daily rather than attending weekend seminars sporadically. The key is creating momentum through consistency rather than seeking perfection through intensity. Ancient craftsmen understood that steady progress over the years creates mastery, while sporadic, intense efforts create frustration. A construction worker named David applied ancient discipline principles by dedicating 1 hour each morning to learning digital marketing skills. His friends mocked his boring routine while they watched morning television. 3 years later, David's consistent daily practice had developed expertise that generated $80,000 annually in consulting income, more than his full-time construction salary. Ancient wisdom teaches that discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Wealth flows to those who build consistent daily systems, not to those who make occasional heroic efforts. Number 3. Ancient money strategies. The third reason people stay poor is that they depend entirely on single income sources and don't understand how money multiplies itself. Modern Americans trade time for money through jobs, but they never learn to make money work independently of their labor. They save money in accounts earning 1% while inflation steals 3%, and they don't grasp the fundamental principle that wealth comes from owning assets that produce income, not from working harder at jobs. Ancient Phoenician traders understood money multiplication through their revolutionary approach to commerce and risk management. Rather than depending on single trade routes, Phoenician merchants established trading posts across the entire Mediterranean, creating multiple income streams that protected them from any single economic disaster. They developed the world's first international banking system, where money deposited in one city could be withdrawn in another, effectively making their capital work simultaneously in multiple locations. The Phoenicians invented what we now call diversification. They never put all their wealth into one venture, one route, or one type of goods. A typical Phoenician merchant might have investments in Lebanese cedar exports, Egyptian grain imports, Spanish silver mining, and maritime insurance for other traders. This created a financial ecosystem where money flowed from multiple sources, ensuring prosperity even when individual ventures failed. Ancient Jewish merchants perfected wealth preservation through their understanding of tzedakah and community investment. Jewish tradition required successful merchants to reinvest portions of their profits into community businesses, creating interconnected networks of mutual prosperity. They developed sophisticated credit systems, partnership structures, and risk-sharing agreements that allowed entire communities to build wealth collectively rather than individually. The Talmud contains detailed discussions about money multiplication principles, including specific guidelines for portfolio allocation, emergency reserves, and generational wealth transfer. Jewish merchants understood that money must work continuously. They created loans, partnerships, and investment opportunities that generated returns even while they slept. Chinese business families developed the most sophisticated money multiplication systems in history through their guanxi networks and multi-generational thinking. Chinese merchants didn't just build businesses for immediate profit. They created family enterprises designed to generate wealth for centuries. They established trading companies, manufacturing operations, real estate holdings, and financial services that supported each other synergistically. The Chinese understood that true wealth comes from owning productive assets rather than consuming luxury goods. While others spent profits on impressive possessions, Chinese families reinvested everything into income-producing ventures that could support multiple generations. The biblical parable of talents reveals the fundamental principle underlying all ancient wealth strategies. A master gave servants different amounts of money before traveling abroad. The servants who invested their money and doubled the returns were praised and given even greater responsibilities. But the servant who buried his money for safety was condemned for wasting opportunities. This ancient story reveals something profound. Money that doesn't multiply is money that dies. The wealthy understand that inflation and opportunity costs make saving without investing a guaranteed path to poverty over time. These ancient examples demonstrate that money multiplication requires three elements: multiple income sources, compound growth through reinvestment, and systems that work independently of your direct labor. Modern Americans typically have only the first element through their jobs, which is why they stay financially trapped despite working hard. Here's your ancient money strategy. Build an emergency fund covering 6 months of expenses, then create at least 3 income streams. Start with your job as the foundation, add a side business or valuable skill you can monetize, and begin investing in assets that pay dividends or interest. Reinvest all profits from side activities rather than spending them on lifestyle upgrades. The key is treating money like seeds that must be planted to grow, not fruit to be consumed immediately. Ancient merchants understood that today's investment becomes tomorrow's income stream, but only if you resist the temptation to spend profits on immediate gratification. Automate your wealth building by setting up systems that move money into investments before you can spend it. Ancient wisdom teaches that willpower fails, but systems succeed consistently over time. A restaurant worker named Elena applied ancient money principle by keeping her day job while starting a small catering business and investing profits in dividend stocks. Her friends thought she was obsessed with money for working extra hours instead of relaxing. 5 years later, Elena's multiple income streams and compound investments had grown to $150,000 in assets, while her single-income friends struggled with the same financial problems. Ancient wisdom teaches that money is a tool that multiplies when used strategically, but disappears when hoarded or consumed carelessly. These aren't just financial tips, They're ancient survival wisdom that has lifted people from poverty for thousands of years. The mindset mastery that transforms victims into victors. The discipline systems that turn sporadic efforts into compound success. And the money strategies that multiply wealth independently of your labor. These principles work together as a complete poverty escape system. Ancient Babylon, Greece, and Jewish communities prove that staying poor is a choice, not a permanent condition. The same psychological patterns that created wealth 4,000 years ago still work today, because human nature hasn't changed. Families who understood these principles built fortunes that lasted generations, while those who ignored them stayed financially trapped despite working hard. This week, choose one ancient principle and practice it daily. Start with the mindset shift from victim to victor, or the discipline habit that resonates most with your situation, or begin building your first additional income stream. Don't try to change everything at once. Master one principle before adding another. Comment, impossible to stay poor, if you're ready to follow ancient wisdom instead of modern financial confusion that keeps people trapped in cycles of scarcity. And if you want to see the specific modern applications of these ancient principles, the exact daily routines and investment strategies that wealthy families use to implement these 4,000-year-old systems, let me know below. Poverty isn't permanent. It's just a temporary condition that ancient wisdom can change. The same principles that transform slaves into rulers, apprentices into masters, and immigrants into millionaires are available to you right now. The question is, will you apply them or stay trapped by ignoring them?